Hey everybody, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Matt Connerton, and to my right, our shape-shifting host has once again reverted to the form of the Honorable Gary S. Hopper.
Matt!
Last week you were John Burt, and it was very
I
confusing
looked
to me.
exactly like John Burt last week.
Yes.
He told me, not that I wasn't John Burt,
Right.
but say, hypothetically, I saw him in the hall today at the State House,
Yes.
and he says, Matt says I'm a libertarian, but I'm a conservative Republican. No, John, no, you are not. You are not even close. You are a libertarian.
Yeah.
He just cannot accept the truth.
Yeah.
What else did he say? What did that jerk say to me? He said that there's a passage in the Bible that says there is no hell.
I don't know.
And I do not believe that that's the case.
Well, I know
But
that
there might be a case where they say that to make a point, but not to be taken literally as if there isn't one.
is that did hell not come up until the New Testament? Is that what it is?
Satan was in
something?
the Old Testament. Satan was the one who tempted Job.
Because I've heard this argument before, but I'm not much of a theologian, but although it is interesting to me, but
I know that he said in Revelations, I believe it says that God has prepared the pit of hell for the devil and his followers.
well, that might lend to part of the argument why people who don't believe in hell say that, because I know that Revelations is very controversial, like a lot of
Yeah, but it's not just Revelations.
they argue over. Oh, okay.
So, anyway, I have my mentor, Jane Cormier, on this evening.
Yes,
Mentor.
Mentor.
Wow.
I've never heard you refer to her as your mentor before.
She's awesome. That's why.
Okay.
She is awesome. So Jane, we had a lot of stuff in judiciary this week. Look at the list of
Holy
bills
moly.
we had.
You guys,
Those are the bills we had to exec on this week.
Just this week.
Just yesterday and today.
And what does that mean for those who don't know when you say you had to?
Oh, yeah. Basically, somebody introduces a piece of legislation. Like, I'll give you the example of, I forget which House bill it is, but Neil Kirk had a bill to, so that you could maintain the authority over your own genetic code.
Okay.
Okay?
This sounds familiar. Yeah.
And I don't know which House bill it is. Anyway,
you want to look?
yeah, I probably should.
Share paper.
Because I think people should support this. Limiting pregnancy. Nope, that ain't it.
Is this something that's come up before? Because it sounds familiar to me. This issue.
It's House Bill 1493. It's similar things have come up before. But basically it says that your genetic code is your possession.
Right.
And the reason you would want to pass a law like that is initially it took 7 years for them to sequence the first human genetic genome. 7 years. It now takes a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Eventually it will take 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
All right.
Ooh, I like
5
convenience.
minutes, right? Exactly. But once it gets down to that point,
Yeah.
they're going to scrape some saliva off that. They'll say, that's Matt Connerton who lives at so-and-so.
I drool too much. I know.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
You got to cut it out.
Yeah.
Once they can do that, your information will be a gold mine.
Well,
If you-
mine certainly.
Yours
Yes.
specifically.
Yes.
But if you had a data bank with everybody's genetic code,
Yeah.
how many employers would want to have ownership or have access to that before they hired somebody?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because this is your genetic code is worse. Judging people not hiring somebody because of their color or gender is just stupid.
Right.
Okay, that's just ignorant.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But if you don't hire them based on their genetic makeup, that's logical. Because you can tell what their potential problems, physical
Sure.
problems they might have.
Right.
If they have a predisposition to cancer, alcoholism.
Right.
There's a litany of things that they might be predisposed to that you could tell from their genetic markers. And certain people would become
Unemployable.
unemployable
Yeah.
just because of their genetic makeup.
Right.
even though they might have a predisposition to alcoholism, like Donald Trump probably does. No,
Why do you say
I
that?
say that because I think he said this. I forget, it was one of the speeches I went to about like his brother was a wicked alcoholic.
Oh, I
and he
didn't know
watched
that.
what happened to them, and he says he's just never drank.
Yeah, he's very straight edge. He's never even had a cup of coffee apparently because he's so anti-drug. He doesn't even want caffeine.
Right, and so his genetic marker might say he has a potential to be an alcoholic.
Right.
So an employer would say, no, we're not going to take a chance on him.
Right, potential, the key word. Isn't it funny, we've, in privacy, with all of the advances that we have in every corner of our existence, right? Privacy is the thing that keeps getting squished out more and more. And although you can say that they can see the negative things, they can also see the positive things.
Right.
So if you have a predisposition to, let's see, well, I don't know. Can they predict mathematics or what your
I presume so.
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Those folks would be getting a push, or let's say some more support than someone that maybe had a lower IQ or a lower, I don't know, something in the genome that said they were lower functioning in any way.
Right. Sure.
It just makes everything so relative.
Right. Well, people would no longer be judged. It's like the famous quote from Martin Luther King, I look forward to a day where people will be judged by the strength of their character,
Right.
not the color of their skin.
Right.
This, if we don't get a hold of this really quickly, people will be judged by the potential of their genetic.
Isn't that awful?
It is horrible.
Yeah, potential's a
Because
nasty
potential
thing.
is just like the foundation that you can overcome.
Of course.
And overcoming those deficits is actually what makes you a stronger person.
Right. We seem to be having that issue all over the board, though, these days.
Invasion of privacy?
Not just invasion of privacy, but thinking that we know that because we have a little bit of information, we can make decisions that are just out of our realm. We see it in life all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
All spectrums of life, right? And, if a pregnancy is going to, in terms of abortion, right, we seem to know, we've been doing a lot of work on this. Babies that are predisposed to having birth defects are being subjected to what we call slow care. And what that means is rather than come out, actually I changed my doctor twice. I got pregnant at 42. And I had two doctors that were just so aggressive at making sure that I had an amnio because, you might want to abort the pregnancy. And both of them, I was shocked, infested our discussions with abortion talk. That I changed doctors twice until I hit my third doctor that just basically I said, you know what, I don't want the amnio. I'm not taking the shot of losing my baby because you know what, there's no abortion for me.
Right.
I'm in it till the end.
That's interesting though. So it was to the point where you felt like they were encouraging you to have an abortion?
I know they were encouraging it. And let
Wow.
me tell you, stories that I have heard since joining New Hampshire Right to Life absolutely are beyond the pale. Things where it's not proven specifically, like potential, again, that there could be an issue. And so they're trying to push ending the pregnancy because it could happen. In the case of people that have been genetically marked, they have a marker for a disability, right? They come right out. They don't even play they don't even, in many, many cases now, I'm not talking about one or two, it's been heavily documented that these doctors are going right out without even discussing treatment possibilities, possible life, quality of life issues that might change it. They're just going out and saying you should end the pregnancy. And millions of babies in this country have been terminated because of this push.
Yeah, we had a bill. We had a lot of 9 to 8 and just.
Did you now?
Oh, a lot of
Well,
them.
you know what? That makes me feel better. I mean, at least you had people there that were willing to have a discussion and a debate, right?
Right. We had, but we had a bill in that said you could not abort a child based on genetic testing.
Or testing? Okay.
I think that's it.
Sometimes they have them on gender, too.
There's so many freaking bills I can't.
And
I
life
can't
bills.
record.
Lots of life bills.
That was what
Yeah.
today was. Today and yesterday were mostly life bills.
All life bills almost, yeah.
Anything on anything new in terms of parental notification
No.
or anything like that?
No.
Because that's something, I consider myself pro-choice, but I, as we've talked about on the show, I absolutely am in favor of parental notification.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Which some pro-choicers would tell me disqualifies me from being pro-choice.
Oh,
but
that's silly.
I know, but if you sat on this committee, you see the vote is right down the party line, except
Yeah.
for there's only one person on that committee. I shouldn't say that. There's one person on the committee that will vote pro-life, tend to pro-life, if the bill is written well.
Okay.
If the bill is not written well, she will not vote for it.
Really?
And she's sincere about it. She's actually fixed a couple bills with Kurt to try to get them.
What does mean if the bill is right? You mean passable?
No, in other words, if it is technically correct.
Okay, I'm not
And that-
sure what that actually means.
All
in
right,
the bill.
well,
Because I know that a lot of legislators will claim to be pro-life, right? And they allow themselves to be able to vote against bills using the excuse,
yeah.
well, it's a bad bill.
This is the difference,
Okay.
okay? Is if it's a bad bill,
Yeah.
she will help you fix it so it's a good
There
bill,
is, okay.
and then vote for it. She
Okay.
did that twice
Well,
in the
that
last
sounds
2
helpful,
days.
All right, very good.
Okay, her name's Claire Roulard. She's a straight shooter
Okay.
for everything I've dealt with her. Joe Hagan's bill. Joe Hagan had a bill to no, what was it? Oh man, there's just so many picket
Yeah,
pieces
there
of
were too many.
legislation. It was just so much.
You can't
overload.
remember them
I
all.
can't remember them all.
I can't either.
Isn't it in the hundreds every year as far as how much?
I think
legislation
life
is-
bills probably was close to 30 this year. This year.
No, I just meant total though, in
Yeah.
terms of how much legislation. I'm always
Oh.
staggered by the numbers when I
Yeah.
hear about.
I think 700-800 bills sometimes. Yeah.
incredible.
Is normal.
That is incredible.
Yeah. It is crazy.
Wow.
Oh man.
See, I would even go a step further in term. I would go for parental consent. But again, if I say that, like I said, I think I'm pro-choice. But sometimes if I say that to a pro-choicer, some understand, but some will look at me like, well, then you're not pro-choice. What's
Yeah,
pro-choice
that's
about
hardcore.
you? And I'm like, well, I think I'm pro-choice, but
Well, sometimes ideologues on the both sides, right?
yeah,
Hardcore ones
yeah.
will allow no.
Right, and you see that more and more, I think, now as the polarization,
I don't know.
as I perceive it. I mean,
Yeah.
as someone who is kind of a centrist, I perceive that over time things have become so polarized that you see more and more of that on both sides, where it's like everyone.
I'm not sure that I agree with that, Matt. I think that the press and how it's being presented certainly makes it look that way. But you look at the state of New Hampshire. The state of New Hampshire doesn't support life much at all.
No.
So what's polarizing about that? It's very progressive in the life debate.
Yeah.
So that's not polarized. What's polarized about that?
I think I'm thinking more in the macro in terms of national politics. But I mean, New Hampshire is such an anomaly in a lot of ways,
Yeah, that's true.
in good ways.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, in some good ways. I mean, it's very it's reasonably fiscally conservative, and its Second Amendment. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second
Yeah.
Amendment, I think we're great with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
just
wish
it's
that-
just the social issues we suck at
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty bad too. But like we had bills in to try to eliminate pregnancy after viability. Mm-hmm. Okay, so around 22 weeks, which is the pro-abortion people speak out of both sides of their mouths. I could learn, Fazell, whatever her name is, for Planned Parenthood.
Frizzell. Yes, Jennifer.
Jennifer, I was told today she makes $300,000 a
It's a
year.
lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now what is?
$300,000.
She's their policy person.
She's their
Planned Parenthood.
lobbyist. She's their lobbyist
Well-
that comes up and fights against all this stuff.
I think she's
Nationally
the
or in the
policy, New England.
state? Oh, okay.
No, Planned Parenthood. I believe she's with Planned Parenthood of New England,
New England. Okay.
Okay.
and pulls that hefty salary. And
Wow.
she, I believe, is their policy director, if I'm not mistaken. She's moved around kind of in the Planned Parenthood thing, but
So it's nice to see your taxpayer dollars going to
Mm-hmm.
fight things like she fights against
Always.
parental notification.
Yeah.
Always, no
So
matter
she
what.
takes that hardcore
Yeah.
position
She
you were
takes-
talking
as
about, yeah.
hardcore as they can be.
She
Yeah.
is hardcore as they can be. She takes on one side of the coin. She said that we should not have the legislative process involved in a doctor and patient's decision to have an abortion at 21 weeks, which is viability.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, she says, but there's no abortions in New Hampshire at 21 weeks.
Okay. So
she says, we don't do this at all,
it's ridiculous.
but we want to make sure there's no law preventing us from doing it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So here's the thing with the statements that have been frequented by Planned Parenthood New England. Number one, they will tell us that none of that is happening. However, we have no statistics in the state of New Hampshire. We're one of 3 states in the country that offers no statistics on what's happening in abortion
So
clinics.
they can't back up their claim then,
Zip.
because there's no numbers
They
to back
have
it up,
nothing.
right?
Here, secondly, we're supposed to be having, not through the state mandated, but I believe federally mandated, inspections of our abortion clinics here in New Hampshire. We haven't had one in 5 years. Abortion clinics in this state have not been inspected in 5 years. And I know that because New Hampshire Right to Life had pulled a Freedom of Information Act. And in that Information Act, we found out all kinds of facts.
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what we were told in committee just on one of the bills, because we had a bill in here to license abortion clinics. They
Okay.
don't, the hairdresser needs a license, but
Right.
the abortion clinic
Tattoo
doesn't.
artists need a license. They
Right.
need to be certified and they need to be inspected.
We were
Yeah.
told that their insurers and the different people that oversee, like the doctor and things
Yes.
like that, inspect those facilities up to 30 times a year.
Okay, that's not what this Freedom of Information Act said. In fact, it was said, quote, that they were not inspected with the 5 years because there were no funds with which to do so. Okay.
So that will.
So-
Okay. I'm going to be devil's advocate for a second. But is that not inspected by whom?
That's what I was wondering. Who is supposed to be doing this?
Because in other words, they're saying.
Well, it wouldn't be New Hampshire.
I know, but they're saying they get inspected by people, insurance companies,
Right.
because they want to make sure that they've got the facilities to do what they say they're doing, and they're inspected by this and that. They say
Right.
they're inspected a lot.
Okay, well, I don't recall any specificity. I did read it. It's been a while, but I did read it, and I don't recall in that specific paragraph saying what entity.
Okay.
I just remember reading that they hadn't been inspected for 5 years and that the cause of that was because there were no funds with which to do so.
Right.
So-
but she gets $300,000
Well,
a year.
you know what? Let's look at it this way. And this is a no-brainer. This should be a no-brainer for every pro-choice person in the world. All right? They need it for women's health care. Planned Parenthood needs it for women's health care. Fine. It's a private business. Mom and dad don't get federal or state funds from their little bakery shop at the corner from taxpayer funding. Why should Planned Parenthood, as a private organization that supposedly is important for women's health care, why do they get Obamacare funds, Medicaid funds, Medicare funds, and our taxpayer funding dollars on the federal level and on the state level? That is obscene. That
Right.
is obscene. The fact they do not give, not one Planned Parenthood in this country offers a mammogram. Not one. It's
No.
a fact and it's documented.
Right.
They give pap smears, but they can't read their own pap smears. They have to send everything else out. You have pregnancy care clinics that outnumber Planned Parenthood in this country 3-1, and they offer cheaper, better access to health care services than Planned Parenthood. They say 3% of their business is for abortion, and it's a total canard. Because if you look at their finances, over 60% of the income they derive in those organizations are abortion related.
Right. Yeah, because what they do to work the numbers is they say only a certain percent is actually abortion. And that's the actual, just the abortion, not including the prep
Right.
the nurse's visit,
Yeah.
visit, that visit, all the other stuff that
Water it down.
is associated with the abortion is not included in their percentage.
Okay. And
That's how they get around.
Absolutely. They water down the numbers. So now let's see. We have this wonderful little machine that's going in there, and they're getting into your school systems because they give important information about sexuality to our kids. They're future customers. Well, they'll give them condoms. Well, they will promote sexual activity. They will promote it as much as they can. And every time you go to Planned Parenthood, they have a nice little file. That nice little file calls Jane Cormier 4 or 5 times a year, tries to actively maintain contact with everybody in their database because they're all future customers. And you know what? I say abortion is legal right now. Fine. We can work on that. That's something we have to deal with, right? But what we should not have to deal with is that they come into our schools that are public funded, we give them their customer base, we pay them for their services, and they are a private organization. I have one mantra for you out there: stop feeding the beast. Right. Period.
Well, I've speculated that, if you were to, because I mean they're partially taxpayer funded, and a big chunk of what they get comes from, I think a larger I don't know the numbers, but I think a larger percentage comes from private funding. If you were to pull the plug on that taxpayer funding, I don't think it's unreasonable to suspect that they could make that up.
Then let them.
Because there would be so much outrage among people who want Planned Parenthood to continue to function.
Then why don't they do it?
They could, which is why I personally, again, I'm pro-choice, but I would not object to ending funding them via taxpayer money.
You know why,
because
Matt?
I think they'd be fine.
They will crumble, Matt.
Well, I don't think they will. I think they'd make up that funding.
They might for a short term. They might short term.
Yeah.
The fact is, 2012 to today, 165 or 7 abortion clinics have closed in this country because they could not afford to keep the doors open. 167. Mm-hmm. In that time period, 21 have opened.
Right.
What does that tell you? They aren't coming in the doors as much as they were.
Well, in a lot of states, they've restricted abortion to the point where
no. This is closing doors now. All right. So my thing to you here, then my discussion to you here is, you're on the right track. If there's such a great organization, if there is such a need for women's health care at Planned Parenthood, then let them fight it on their own.
Right.
Let them get it on their own.
I don't disagree.
And that is something that we should be absolutely
let the free market handle it.
Bingo.
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with that at all. We do have a call. Hi, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Norm. I have a question for Jane, please.
Yes,
Norm.
Jane,
please.
I see what you did there.
Hey, Jane, is it really true that I've been reading the paper about how they actually cut the fetus in half, and not only that, do they really sell these fetuses to the different companies for whatever they might do? I've been reading the paper about how they go to the Planned Parenthood, and with the babies that they throw away or whatever, I hate to use that word, a murder, do they really did the Planned Parenthood really make a profit off it?
Okay, Norm, thank you for the question. There's actually 2 questions there. I'll take the last one first. Planned Parenthood is sort of telling everyone that although fetal donations are happening, tissue donations are happening, but, quote, they don't make money on it. Well, no business in its right mind offers services where you don't make money off it. So in the country, we know that these are happening because they're on the books, fetal tissue donation. New Hampshire specifically, Jennifer Versell has gone on the record saying that they do not do tissue donations in New Hampshire. However, that same Freedom of Information Act that I just talked about clearly shows on their financial records a nice little section for fetal tissue donation here in New England and New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
So it is on the books, and it is part of, of the budget, so to speak.
Has she been confronted with that?
You know what? I brought that up in testimony a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. She was there. She didn't address it.
Yeah, that bill got killed today.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, so
we work hard to try to give the information, but what it is. Yeah. For the first part of Norm's question, And this is the very ugly side of abortion that nobody wants to talk about. And when you do, they call you crazy. They call you, oh, you're a right-winger, crazy person. There's no reason in the world why any human being should be pulled apart, piece by piece, out of the womb of its mother. And the fact is that is happening in second trimester abortion all over the world and here in America. The bad thing that's been happening, in addition to dismembering these babies to remove them, the easiest way for the doctors, right, is to just dismember the baby and pull the parts out. Many times when the babies are alive, and those that say that those babies do not feel pain, I ask you, does that make sense to you that a 20-week infant does not feel the arms and the legs being ripped off his body? I say common sense tells me they feel it.
Yeah,
when you try
I
to
agree.
put the needle in the amniocentesis, that little baby will move as far away from that needle as it can. And we know hormonally that the hormone changes in babies that have gone through dismemberment have just skyrocketed. There is absolute evidence for that. Now we take the real debate in my mind. Planned Parenthood says, oh, well, nothing's happened. We've been exonerated. They have not been exonerated. It simply hasn't been picked up by the courts. They have decided to, for the guy that was doing the videos that brought this forth, they decided to go after him because it's a great hunt, right? Makes a great story. That's going to be thrown out because he was covered. He was a writer, and he used all the techniques of undercover investigation reporter that you could use. That'll be thrown out. But the truth is that there is on federal statute a law that clearly says that if you try to change the delivery position of a fetus in order to benefit from the sale of its parts or organs, that is against the law. And that is where I believe that Planned Parenthood will be brought to the court system, and I believe that they will lose because that is a very clear statute under federal law. The other part of it is, well, they're not, quote, benefiting. They're not making money, right? So if they just cover costs, it's not illegal. That's the other half of that argument.
Right, because federally it is illegal, right, for them to sell for profit.
To make a profit, it is.
Yeah.
That's correct, but they're getting around that saying, well, we're just covering costs. Name a business that does a business to just cover costs. Yeah, they do it out of the goodness of their hearts after they've pulled the baby apart. Please. But the other side of it is that they are changing, and we've seen it in 3 of the videos where they're changing the delivery position of the baby to try to get as much of the intact baby, not fetus, as they can so they can sell it.
And that specifically is illegal? The changing the position of
Specifically,
the,
yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, if you watch Planned Parenthood and the liberals will claim that these videos are heavily edited. That's their claim to fame. It's heavily edited. What they failed to mention is the interview with them saying that it was heavily edited because you want to fit it in a 2-minute thing on the news.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything's heavily edited.
Right.
So what you do is you watch the entirety of those videos, which I've done one of them.
Right.
And you learn how this woman sitting there eating dinner, explaining how if you have the right technique, you can cut the baby up such that the heart is intact and the brain is intact. Yeah, when they get it out, so that they can actually harvest those specific organs.
Right.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is, yes, they are actually altering the position of the baby so that they can cut it up and get the most intact parts
Right.
for resale to these people.
And don't forget, now, if you're going to harvest organs, they have to be as alive
Right.
as they can be to be harvested and used. So these babies are kept alive as long as possible.
We tried. Let's see which one it was. Prohibiting the buying and selling and experimenting on unborn infants or bodily remains resulting from abortion. That was House Bill 1663. It was found inexpedient to legislate 10-8. And, of course, they say, well, we don't do that.
Yeah.
But this is... It's extremely evil. I mean, it's not, people want to think about it as a young girl makes a mistake and she gets pregnant and her whole life is like folding before her and she goes and gets an abortion. That's really not what it is. It's an obsession to kill the unborn and make a profit doing it.
That's
what
Planned
Parenthood is.
I believe that's true.
And if you listen, if all you have to do is come up and listen to the testimony on some of these bills, and I know that there was a new legislator who just started on the committee, and he said he had all he can do. And when remember that a few weeks ago when we had a few of those,
yeah,
he had all he could do to keep from crying.
Yeah, I know. I saw him last week.
Really nice
couple
guy.
Of weeks ago. Yes, absolutely. And we spoke outside, and he said that it's just a horror. He said it's a horror, and it is a horror. I mean, yeah, that young girl that gets pregnant accidentally, or whatever, maybe it was a bad situation, but the truth is, there's two succinct individuals in play here. There's one that has genetic features that have nothing to do with mom, totally own individual person. And I think that we should be much, much better as a nation helping mom have that baby, and if she needs, have someone adopt her baby for 9 months, than to terminate the life of another human being because it just isn't something that somebody wants to go through. Right. There's something just wrong about that. Animals will fight to keep their babies. They will fight for their young. We have so deviated because we're so smart. We think we're just so smart.
Oh, we have a call. I didn't even hear it ring that time. Hi, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Who's on the line?
Hi, I have a question for your guest.
Yes.
I'm going to try to phrase it as delicately as I can.
Jane's tough. She can take it.
I was never aware that the possibility that the fetuses were being turned and manipulated to get a larger section of body part in order to...
I didn't know that either until tonight.
For some other... my question is, what purposes do they have with these body parts? Is it simply...
Oops.
Or is it for the purpose of...
Okay,
no, you're cutting in. Dave, you're...
I'm going to go...
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, we'll let you go, Dave. I think we kind of got the gist of it. Your phone was
thanks for the call, Dave.
Cutting in and out.
Yeah, you were cutting in and out. But I think the gist of it is, what are they using the body parts for?
Right.
If they're going through these, because one of the interview I saw of the whole thing, the woman doctor was explaining how they, a talented doctor can actually cut things up, manipulate things so that they can actually harvest more intact parts.
Well, I assume it's for medical research, right? I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure that some of it is for medical research. Yeah. I'm not sure. That's for the organs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why the body parts per se. That's all. I probably should know that answer. Why body parts are sold. I mean, I can understand the organs because it's a live entity, and supposedly there are medical reasons that they want to sell these so that you can experiment.
Right.
Right. But we kind of did that in World War II. We saw what happens with medical experiments, and the truth is you can learn as much from an adult, and it's just like stem cell research. Right? Everybody's like, well, the stem cells from the fetuses or the embryos that you create are really important because of discoveries. Do you know that there have been almost no discoveries off of embryonic stem cells? They're almost all on adult stem cells. Almost to a one. That's how it's just teeny. The number of stem cells from embryonic embryos research has offered medical science, and yet they will perhaps make 1,000 babies in this embryonic stem cell research thing. They will develop 1,000 babies, right, and use 2 and kill the rest of the embryos.
Well, but see that's where a lot of medical folks and scientists would argue those aren't people, those aren't babies at that stage.
They have their genetic markers, my friend.
Right.
And do you know that all of those doctors, this was another factoid that I found fascinating taking on New Hampshire Right to Life. I can't find one doctor, one experiment person, what is it, like a medical researcher, that has ever said anything but life begins at conception. And I charge you, you go look. You see if you can find one online. Almost every medical person that you will see that will talk about that, even pro-abortion doctors, will say that they agree that life begins at conception. So therefore, if life begins at conception...
I hear a lot of politicians say that.
No, you look, okay? You trust me, Matt. I've done the research on it. I can't find any.
Okay.
Look it up and see.
I've seen a lot of disagreement about that. Actually, even among some Republicans, Newt Gingrich, who's a very conservative guy and very pro-life. I remember back during the 2012 debates, he angered some of his fellow conservatives when he said, he thinks that the party's wrong about life begins at conception. He thinks implantation makes a lot more sense.
That's an argument that we're seeing today because the progressives that really want to embrace pro-choice, pro-abortion, are now finding that it was uncomfortable to say life begins at conception because mainstream America kind of gets that. So now it's not life at conception when the egg is fertilized. Right. It's only when it's implanted.
Well, Newt Gingrich is not a progressive.
Well, he might not be, but I'm saying that
and he's a very smart guy.
That doesn't mean that he's correct. And that doesn't mean that he's not part of the argument that is trying to be buffeted up so that they can get around life at conception. Mm-hmm. Once life is life at conception, Roe v. Wade, my friend, falls apart. Do you understand? That's why personhood is such a divisive thing for the left. They see that as not... I see personhood as, because we're people, we want to take care of and nurture people at the beginning all the way to natural death, because that's what we should be doing. We're good. We should be good. We should nurture life. Life doesn't come from us, so we shouldn't put it to death.
But once you say, so if you establish that life begins at conception, so then does that mean that you oppose the pill, for example?
Personally, I do not. However, I understand that comes into play with the argument.
Yes, it does.
But we're not talking about the pill right now. We're talking about after a life has been made. We're not talking about pill before conception right now. Don't muddy it up. We're talking about life at conception where the egg has been, fertilized in the mouth.
But then why the arguments against the morning after pill? The pro-lifers argue against that, and all that is a high dose of birth control. Not RU486. That's a separate thing.
Right.
But the morning after pill, I hear pro-lifers argue against that, and that it's akin to an abortion when it does the same thing as the pill.
We're not, they're assuming that if anything was fertilized, right, for specifically answering that question, it would kill the pregnancy. So if you're going to be pro-life, right, you really don't want to promote that, and I know many pro-life people see that as the beginning, because once the nose is under the tent, you just get the whole camel there, So that's how it's gone. That's how it's gone. So I'm just telling you that I think that's what many pro-life people believe.
But do you agree with that?
Are you asking personally?
Yes.
Personally, I think that the morning after pill is something I could not support. Only because if the pregnancy had taken place, okay, personally speaking, under my, if I was pregnant, I couldn't make that judgment that if God had ordained that life was going to start there for good or for ill or for whatever.
But should it be illegal in your opinion? Because it seems to me if you're going to outlaw the morning after pill, which people argue for, then you've got to outlaw the pill.
So while we're here talking about this little bitty thing, you've got this raging debate going on. Why do pro-choice people stick to that so tough? It's
because
about
pro-lifers are constantly introducing legislation to outlaw the morning after pill.
How do you feel about babies' legs being ripped off?
Wait. I don't know how long I do know how long I've been in the legislature. I've been in the legislature since 2000. I missed 3 years.
Yeah.
I have never seen a bill to outlaw the morning after pill. Or
Good. Well, I'm glad. I mean, if that's not happening in New
that
Hampshire,
doesn't
that's
mean
a
it
good thing.
hasn't happened. I
I've
didn't
never
know
seen
it
it
happened.
either.
It happens a lot of places, but if it's not happening here, that's good.
No,
I don't know that
I'm
I've ever.
encouraged by that.
Well, I guess maybe I won't say never. You can never say never.
Because I personally think it's absurd.
Okay,
So if it doesn't happen here, that's a good thing.
I will tell you that the bills that we see in judiciary are specifically bills to try to eliminate late-term abortions, which
Right.
the pro-abortionists fight tooth and nail,
Right.
and they typically win. They've got a governor that's going to veto anything that
That's right.
happens to get through.
No, they're in lockstep on that. Yeah.
They always fight again. I mean, we're talking. I mean, if we're going to talk about this, talk about stuff that most people agree with, and
Right.
most people agree that about parental notification.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, think that's ridiculous. I think it should be parental permission.
Right. Yeah. And then, like I said, I would
Yeah, there
even
you
go
go.
for that. I
Okay,
would.
but
Yeah, you're right.
But parental notification. Where is that?
With a provision, of course, that you can, if it's in certain situations,
Yes.
you can appeal to the court.
Right.
if
That's
it's a
always
weird-
part of.
Hopefully
all those-
that's rare, but yeah.
That's always part of that bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened with parental notification? I've lost track.
This session? Or
No.
was-
Didn't we pass it and then they what did we
I
pass
think
it
we're
and
back.
repeal?
I think we're back to the repeal, if
They
I'm not
repealed it,
mistaken.
right?
I think that it's
Yeah.
now you parents can't. You can stop from tanning, but you can't stop your
Right.
child from
Right.
having an abortion.
Yeah. It's
right?
it's absurd.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But they fight that tooth and nail. They
Yeah.
fight parental notification or like today or yesterday. I've lost track of when we had a bill just to say no, you can't sell the infant's body parts.
Baby body parts and organs. Yeah.
Nope, that's not going to pass.
No.
I mean,
And I was at that hearing, and she actually said that wasn't happening. And I got up and I said that their own documents prove that it is happening. It's on the budget.
Yeah.
So why is that line item on the budget if it's not happening?
Right.
Right.
And there's never much of a response.
No.
Yeah.
I know. I was it last term? Last year. They had you know how we used to have Claire Ebel was the person from the American Civil Liberties Union?
Yeah.
Well, they got a new lady there.
Yep.
And it was one of these it was one of these, I think the dissecting thing. And I asked her, I said, I know the American Civil Liberties Union has fought tooth and nail to protect terrorists that are in Gitmo from being tortured or abused or inhumanely treated.
Right.
How can you sit there and turn around and come to this committee and say that it's okay to dice up a child in the inside of a womb?
Hypocrisy. Total.
And she was pretty.
You know what I find so interesting at these hearings is the antiseptic way that these women, because they always have women, of course, that are coming in and talking about women's rights, talk about these things that are happening. And I think to myself, you know, in the darkness of night when you're lying there, ready to go to sleep, don't you have a thought about what you just pushed for in that hearing? Because it's totally without feeling. It's weird to me.
Yeah.
Well,
just very clinical.
Totally clinical. It's
Yeah.
like they're all that way. They're all, and the faces show nothing, and the rhythm, rhythm of the
I
speech.
disagree with you.
Really?
I think the faces show everything.
What do they show? Because I never see.
Do you ever know somebody that has been in a lot of combat, actual combat, not people that just happen to be in the service?
I don't know. I don't.
There's a
I don't think so.
coldness.
They become desensitized.
They become desensitized.
That's what I think it is. You're right.
There's a coldness, and they're desensitized because they have to. And I'm saying this not to disparage servicemen. I'm just talking. I'm
I
thinking
get
of my
what you mean.
father.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there is a mindset that you or reality that you have to be able to tolerate for whatever time you're in the service
Yeah. To do
to
what
get
you do.
through.
Yep.
If you can't, you fall apart.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can't afford to fall apart because everybody around you is depending on you not falling apart.
You're right.
And there's a coldness, a hardness.
Hardness, yes.
You know, and the Bible talks about the hardness of the heart, you know, and there's that hardness, and you see it in all of their faces.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. God bless them. I mean, you know, we pray for conversion all the time, and we don't say this in a hateful way at all. But I do wonder if at some point, is it just anything goes? You know, you kill anything for any reason because somebody said they wanted to do it? Isn't there a moment that somebody says to themselves, wow, you know, I don't feel real good about that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Weird. It's almost surreal sometimes when I'm there, because sometimes I get caught up in what I'm doing, and I always have to try to practice to pause, right? Because when I testify, I don't like to be overly passionate, because I think that people watching...
They'll use that against you.
They do try to,
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
I try to stick to the facts as
Yeah.
much as I can, and I try not to speak for over 3 or 4 minutes.
Mm.
But sometimes it sneaks out,
Sure,
it comes
sure.
out. And almost every time that happens, when you watch the group, the legislators, you know what happens? They break eye contact.
Oh, really?
This happens. Yeah. So I've practiced now enough that I try to make eye contact with people when I'm speaking in the committee. I don't just speak into the nothingness of space.
Right.
And I've tried to make sure that if I'm starting to lose it, that I change my face, so that they don't see me as being, you know, I'm
Right.
angry at you, but
Right.
you know, just trying to offer a passionate response here because it matters to me.
Yeah.
It's very tricky how this all goes together.
Yeah.
But if you look at like somebody like a Jennifer Fazell, she has to.
I don't know. You think? I hope so.
She makes over $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
How
oh, you
could
mean
she possibly ever? This is like.
Yeah.
This is why politicians sell out. Mm-hmm. This is why we as state reps in New Hampshire are actually pretty freaking cool, because we never make enough money.
We didn't make any money.
We don't make any money, so we can't really sell out, so to speak. I mean, there's some that do for
Political
marketing-
gain.
Political gain.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But it's not the same thing. You
Yes.
make $300,000 a year.
You have a lot on the line.
You have everything on the line, and you have to be you have to convince yourself that you're right,
I guess you're right.
probably all the time,
Yeah.
and work hard at it. It's a very strange thing. Hey, on how's New Hampshire Right to Life doing anyway?
New Hampshire Right to Life is bopping right along. We're going to be having a really good voter guide this year.
Yes.
With I'm told that we're going to have A, B, C, D, F, and communications-wise, that will be our pack that will be dealing with the voter guide. But we're going to be very, very active, letting folks know how their representatives voted in life. That's my job.
I think if you do a voter guide, it should consist of votes that the average voter agrees with, like notification.
Right.
The pack will decide, and I tend to agree with that. I
You know
think
what
that
I mean?
they
Like
will.
the dicing up and selling of body parts.
It's a no-brainer, right?
There's some votes that are no brainers. Mm-hmm. There's some votes that are inside baseball that people aren't going to get. So
Yeah.
publicizing how
Well,
somebody voted or for or
I
against.
think you're right. I think the voter guide will be a very, we'll list all the bills, and we'll have how we voted. And because of that voter guide, they will endorse who they will endorse. The committee has nothing to do with endorsing. And I'm the president of the committee. I don't have anything to do with endorsing specific candidates. However, the committee does have a lot to do with letting people know how the votes went, what
Right.
the votes said.
right,
And
right.
that's the part that I intend to spend time with and get on TV shows like yours and let folks know in the different sections of New Hampshire.
You mean you go on other shows besides mine?
I will. I'm sorry.
Jeez.
You notice how she said like yours? Like there is another show
know,
like
right?
yours.
Oh,
right?
there is no other show like yours. I take it back.
So your buddy Ted Cruz did pretty good yesterday.
He did. You know, I really like him. I have to tell you. I mean, having spoken many, many, many times, a couple times, pretty good conversations, and even with Heidi. They're really down to earth folk, and they're not what the press is pushing.
Right.
I'm not really a big Ted Cruz fan, but
I
I'll
know.
take a moment to something I did like. I thought this was a great moment for him in that debate. Have you been watching the debates or have you been avoiding them?
The last one I saw parts of.
You've been watching them, right? Okay. Yeah, because I thought I saw you commenting online. When Marco Rubio, when Ted Cruz was trying to call out Rubio on something he had said on Univision regarding immigration, and Rubio goes, I don't know how Ted knows what I said. I don't even speak Spanish. And I mean, he doesn't even speak Spanish. And then Ted Cruz responds by speaking Spanish to him.
I know.
That was awesome.
I know.
That was a great moment.
You know what? We don't see
I don't
that
know why
side.
that got much press, though. I did see that.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, that should have been, like, front page news or
Yeah.
everywhere.
Because
Yeah.
that was just a gotcha one. You
But,
know?
Yeah.
but it was an excellent gotcha one, and the problem is that the media is not that fond of Ted Cruz.
You think? They hate him.
Well,
They love Rubio.
Yeah.
They-
Because he's the establishment.
They don't like Trump.
I think they
Right.
love Trump. I think they love
No,
Trump.
I
they
think
love the
making
ratings.
money off of
Right.
Trump.
They
but I
love
don't
the
think they love-
ratings.
And
That's
I think
right.
Trump loves it too. I
I
think
mean, because
obviously.
they keep repeating this story about Trump basically almost being in bed with a KKK.
that's a pretty big deal. I've never seen a political candidate have trouble disavowing David
Right.
Duke and the KKK.
I mean, it took 3 times, but
that was
finally.
quite the moment.
And then he said he didn't know, and I thought, oh
He's
my
full
Lord!
of BS.
If you don't know that, you shouldn't be
Yeah.
president because
I'm
that's
sorry.
a big
Yeah.
one.
I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah, that was
No.
unbelievable. And in 2016,
I know, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, the funny thing is
But anyway, he came back later and said that he didn't really have anything to do with. And no, it was
Who's he?
David Duke came on and
Oh.
said that was all a bunch of BS because he didn't endorse Trump.
No, that's
well,
not true. If you read
No?
what David Duke's statement, he thought he was going to be clever.
yeah,
And he put in what you're talking about, that he really respected or something like that, what Trump does, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
and then he said he hasn't endorsed anybody. But we
Right.
all know that that's what they do, right?
Right,
They don't
yeah.
say they're, quote, endorsing, but then they endorse them.
Right,
That's a lot
yeah.
of hooey. He got caught and he knew it. And
Yeah.
he said, oh, I better straighten this
I
up
don't know.
for Donald.
I saw the
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
I saw the video with David Duke, and I believe that he didn't endorse anybody. So
No, now, to endorse, you understand, you have to say, I endorse.
Well, I get what you're
Right.
saying.
But he didn't say
Yeah,
that.
he was trying to be a little clever with it. I
Right.
think.
He
Yeah.
didn't say that,
Yeah.
but he still endorses him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. There's no way I believe that Donald Trump's a racist and is trying to hide it. Or
I don't
anything else.
either. I think he made a political calculation in that moment when he was talking to Jake Tapper. I think he intentionally avoided disavowing the KKK and David Duke because he was thinking, I'm going to win big on Super Tuesday.
In Georgia.
Yeah, and all those other southern states. There you go.
Maybe.
And he was right. It's disgusting, but he was right. He played it right. I believe he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
think he
about
knew
that.
exactly what
Corey
he was doing.
Lewandowski is the guy that knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Trump is not. Trump speaks like a 4th grader. Keep poking him and he'll
Does.
blow up. Just keep poking and you'll
yeah.
get a good one. You'll get a good reaction.
Yeah.
However, I'm not sure that we want somebody in the White House that foreign leaders are going to poke. And the I, and I'm great and great, win.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we want that.
It's a little
They're just
concerning.
saying.
It's a little concerning.
It's a lot concerning.
Well, you know that I endorse Cruz.
Yes,
Yeah.
as did I.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I think he would be a far greater president. However,
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to on Facebook. You will not see me attacking Trump. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because Trump, regardless of his flaws, has to be better than the sociopath frickin' Hillary Clinton.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because Hillary Clinton is going to be like Obama on
Okay.
steroids.
How do you know he won't?
I don't. But I
Therein
know.
lies the problem. No.
I know exactly
You
what
do
Hillary's
know
going to do.
that he has supported virtually the same agenda for
I get
40
that.
years,
I get that.
but for 8 months,
no,
he
listen.
changed.
Listen. I totally
Yeah.
get that. Okay? I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to attack him because I still think, regardless of the fact that it's very probable or possible that he's just running to the right during the primary and then going to
Correct.
run to the center.
Yes.
And then do whatever the hell he wants
Right.
when he becomes president.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if he gets in, he will do something about immigration. I do believe.
Why would he?
Why?
Because he's already twice hired illegal immigrants to build his buildings.
I think that was like
Yep.
30-something years ago.
No.
And then
Wasn't.
the explanation
One
he gave,
was.
and then the explanation he gave was, well, we had to because otherwise we
had
wouldn't
no
have anybody to fill
Americans.
us up, which is the argument that I use.
Anyway,
I know.
anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, I would like to believe. Let me put it this way:
Yeah.
that he's going to do much of what he said he's going to do, including stopping illegal immigration. I would love for a president to be elected that went up and just started firing people, like at the VA. Just
Oh,
like
yeah, that-
fire, like
Well, he's good at
200.
firing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
How about states' rights?
Anyway. Oh, no, I agree.
Ouch.
I did not. I said I didn't vote for him.
He's horrible on states' rights. Horrible. Every libertarian in this country should be pulling their hair out going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He supports eminent domain. My goodness.
I know,
He
I know.
supports BLM. He supports all of the things that squish states' rights because
I get that.
Wow.
I get that.
Can't go
Okay?
there.
But I am still not going to attack him on
Yeah.
Facebook because I don't want in October of this year. I don't want somebody saying, and not that I'm important enough for them to do it, but to say, I'm supporting Hillary Clinton because Representative Gary Harper said that Donald Trump was a B, C, or
Right.
D.
Really?
I don't want that. No.
No, I understand what
Well, I
you're
mean,
saying.
you
would
wouldn't be
still-
responsible for that. Anybody that votes should vote on their own conscience.
That's
That's
true.
nothing to do with you.
No, I just don't think we should be dicing up our Republican candidates.
We better start telling the truth about this guy because this is not a politician. This is an ideologue.
It's too late.
And this is a man that is the height of narcissist. You look up narcissist and you'll see his picture. And we know that about him.
It's too late, Jane. You got to embrace the horror like Gary
No,
does.
we don't. I will never embrace the horror, ever.
You would rather vote for Hillary than
I will
Trump?
write in Ted Cruz.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can always do that. You can
I
always
will.
do
We gotta
that.
go. We gotta go. I'll see you guys next week.
Everybody.
Bye.